we recommend listening to the CW Pod with a glass of Steeple Ridge Bourbon. Grown, distilled, well-rested, and bottled in Erling, Iowa. Now from the Channel Seed Studios, this is the CW Pod, fueled by Steeple Ridge.
All right, what's up? Welcome to CW Pod here. It is Independence Day week, one of my favorite weeks of the year. Feels like nobody works. I'm working all week. A lot coming up next week, Big 12 football media days. I'll be talking about that today on the podcast. Also going to be interviewing the new head coach of the Iowa Wild. So you hockey fans, in full disclosure, I'm not a huge hockey guy, but I did enjoy speaking with the new coach of the Iowa Wild. His name is Greg Cronin. Got hired last week. I got a few minutes with him. And really interesting guy. Really intense dude. So if you're a big hockey fan in the area, stay tuned for the second half of the podcast. Today's podcast, of course, is presented by our friends at Steeple Ridge Bourbon. This is a lovely bottle. This is the specific Iowa Everywhere Barrel Select that we made. It's not in stores. We give this to our sponsors and guests of the podcast. And it's been I might just pop one of these open over the weekend to celebrate the United States of America. And it is okay to celebrate the United States of America. I see a lot of this out there where people are so pissed off about everything all the time. You can disagree with things in the world, in our country, and still celebrate our country. Let's get that out of the way right there. Don't tweet at me. I really don't care. Not even trying to antagonize you. It's just like you can fly an American flag and still disagree with things. I think we've lost a lot of that in our country. Like it's okay. That's what makes our country great, that we can all disagree on things and then still be neighbors and still have pride. We got to get that back. There you go. There's my political context for the day. I am going to get rather opinionated on something here. This Big 12 preseason poll that has been abolished by the league. And I'm going to give my idea on how to fix it. Up until now, it's just been a lot of like, what's wrong with the polls? Why don't they work? Should they have them or not? I'm going to give an idea on how to fix it. And I don't know if it's a good one, but I think it's something that we can at least kick around. And I'm going to try and bring the fan into this and not be as much like media driven, because most of you don't care about the media. You like to consume it, but you don't care about like the inside of it. I think you can tell me if I'm wrong. But I'm going to try and give you a way to fix it here. So in case you don't know what happened, last week it was announced that the Big 12 and media days are coming up next week. So today, or a week from today, I will be in Dallas for the Big 12's media day event. They're not having a preseason poll this year with the league's media, to the point where I understand it. I said in the middle of last year, I mean, this is stupid. Like, it's so hard. I did not submit a poll last year, and I could have, but I just thought it was so disingenuous because I had no idea. Like, I didn't know anything about these new teams that were coming in. There's so many transfers now. Like, I have no clue, like, who's on what roster. Like, and especially when you have to have the poll in on July 1. I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I eat, sleep, and crap Iowa State football, and I don't know like half of what their two deep is going to look like at this point because of these guys. They're, a bunch of these transfers just come in. They just got here in June. How are they going to progress? Right? Like, how's another summer in the weight room going to be for that redshirt freshman who they're really high on? Right? So there's just so many questions, and I think like forcing it down our throat to make you make a decision in July is disingenuous. I mean, we just need to be honest about that. Like, as media, we need to be able to say, I don't know. Like, and you guys have made it really hard on us because it's like a prison to try and get information from these programs anymore, right? They're not just freely like letting you roam the halls and watch practice and stuff like it used to be. And then on the other hand, it's like, I think you run the risk if you're the Big 12 and of you can't just completely shut out the media because you still need them, right? But look at last year. The Big 12 picked Arizona State to get last and Utah to get first. They couldn't have been more wrong. Like it was truly that had to be the worst preseason media poll in history. Like I can't imagine in any scenario in the history of college football where the media has been worse than the Big 12's was on last year's poll. But again, there's real sympathy here and that's why I didn't vote last year. Because I don't know. I mean, I thought Utah was going to be good, but it's their first year in a new league, quarterback with injury problems, right? And it played out that way. I don't know if I would have put him number one, but I would have had him in the top 3, I'm sure, going into last year. I wouldn't have had Arizona State in the top 5, right? So it's hard. So we have to acknowledge the problem. Okay. And the problem is the old way of doing these things doesn't work anymore. Right. So you can't go entirely on returning starters. You can't go entirely on, right? Because returning starters doesn't really matter if you're Texas Tech and you went off and bought one of the best rosters in college football this offseason. Now, that's not exclusive either, right? Because Texas Tech now has to mold all of these pieces together where it work. Will it work? But I guess what I'm saying is we used to have formulas on how we thought teams would be based on what did they do last year, how is this program at developing, yada, yada, yada. Well, most of that doesn't matter anymore. Okay, so what do we do about it? Because I believe, do we need polls? No. Preseason polls. We don't need them. Need is a strong word. Nobody needs these things. But I think it makes it more fun. Would you guys agree with me? Going into week 0 and week 1, it's fun to look at, Iowa State is playing Arkansas State, who is picked blank in the Sun Belt. I think it's more fun to have that base point. It doesn't mean anything. We all know it doesn't mean anything, but it still makes it more fun. That's all I'm saying. Need? No. Is it more enjoyable? Does it give you some context when you're talking about these things with your buddy at the bar? Absolutely. So what do we do about it to keep a poll, but not have it be garbage? So if I were Brett Yormark, and if I was the Big 12, this is what I would do. I would create a super poll of sorts where we are going to no longer allow, because how it's been done in the past, and I don't know exactly how other leagues do it, but I think it's pretty similar to this. Because I've only been asked to vote in the Big 12's poll. It's never been like the Big 10, or the Big 10 doesn't even do one. But this is what I would do. Big 10, Big 12 is how I would do it if I were the commissioner. Because I believe in the polls. I think it's more fun to have them. I think it creates buzz. You get more headlines, fodder on social media, all those things that ultimately are good for the league. I would create a super poll. What does that mean? Well, no longer are we going to allow every person who comes to our league media day to have a ballot. I'm sorry, and I think most media would understand. It's not all created equal, and that's fine, right? Like, not every person there is doing the homework to deserve a ballot. Frankly, I wouldn't be anymore. 10 years ago, yes. Now, in July, I'm going to withstand from voting because I don't know it. Now, August 15th, I feel like I'd be worthy of a vote. That's what we're going to get to. So what I would do is I would have the league's sports information directors. So what a sports information director is, it's Matt Campbell or Kirk Ferentz's guy who handles all of the media for him. It's basically like a PR person within the program. And I would take the league sports information directors and I would nominate one writer from each beat. Okay, so like on Iowa State's beat, I would probably nominate Travis Hines from the Des Moines Register. Travels to most of the games. Really just a professional guy, no bias, right? But that's hard. It's easier said than done. Like, I think there's other beats like Baylor where I'd probably have one of the 365 guys on, because I don't know if the Houston Chronicle, the Waco's got a paper, right? But who knows these teams the most? Who has the best opportunity to not have bias in their poll? Okay, The problem is, back in the day, it used to be automatically, we're going with the newspaper guy. Well, that's not always the case because a lot of these newspapers suck right now. We happen to have a really good writer in Hines. I think that's the guy I would nominate on the Iowa State beat to have a vote in this Super Poll. And what I would do, and this will piss some media off, okay? This is going to piss some media off, and I don't know if this is fair. But at the league's Media Day event, maybe we have a dinner for the Super Poll voters. It's not public. It's behind closed doors. Big 12 puts it on. And we're going to have the sports information director from all the schools, and we're going to have the general manager of all these programs. And they're going to be there. We're going to have a few beers. We're going to have some steak. And there's access for these guys to ask real questions to get real insight for the fans. Okay? Now, again, that'll irritate some because they're going to say, like, well, you're giving them unfair access to your program. And then journalistically, they may not be as willing to call you out if something happens. Okay? So I fully acknowledge there's a flaw right here. But I'm not worried about that if I'm Brett Yormark. The media, if they want to decline it, whatever. If I'm Brett Yormark, I'm going to find the 16 best beat writers in the Big 12, and we're going to put them all into a basket, okay? And then I'm going to take 2 odds makers from Vegas who, come on, they can be a part of this, okay? Everybody's gambling on the games. Quit the facade, okay? Get 2 odds makers, pure data. And then I'm going to go to 2 or 3, let's do 2 national media guys who are heavily respected, who I know follow the shit out of this league. A guy like Joel Klatt doesn't call many games. He used to. But like Felica, just really credible dudes who watch these games. It's their full-time job. They're on Big 12 campuses. A guy like Fran Fraschilla would be perfect in basketball, right? Don't have a dog in the fight. So we're going to have a Super Poll made up of the 16 beat writers who live this beat on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. We're going to have 2 guys from Vegas or girls, whatever. It doesn't have to be Vegas, like analytics people, whatever, but that's generally what gamblers are. And then we are going to have the 2 national writers or broadcasters or whatever. So we're going to have 20 voters. It's going to be our Super Poll. You're going to get more exposure this way because these people will promote the poll. And I think they'll believe in it more. Because I think most of us are self-aware enough when we go to Dallas in early July to know, yeah, this is kind of a crapshoot. I don't actually know. It's impossible to know before fall camp opens, especially now with all the transfers. I have no idea. Like Iowa State has this kid from Yale on the defensive line. I hope he's really good. I don't know if he's going to be any good. I'd like to get a report on that. A couple of these JUCO, these transfer defensive linemen before I make a big prediction on the Cyclone season. I think that's fair, and I think the fans should expect that too, right? Like, why do you want us to come up with just throw crap against the wall if we willingly don't know? It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. That's how I would fix it. That's going to be too much work. Nobody's going to voluntarily do that. I don't think these leagues value the media anymore. I truly think most of these leagues and these athletic departments and programs think that they can just do it on their own because they get some Twitter interaction. The problem is fans don't want that. Fans want real analysis that's not bought and paid for. They don't want a press release. Most fans don't. But when you're in these bubbles of these conferences, it's hard to see. You're always pushing engagement. Oh, you got to report this. They'll hire agencies. All this, honestly, like just fluff is kind of how it works. So I make it like real. Like let's get the best people voting. Let's limit the people who are. I think this would fix the Heisman too. Like I just think the Heisman has gotten to be so bloated. Like how many, like thousands of people were voting on this thing, which used to make it cool. But I think now, I don't know. The Heisman lost its way a long time ago when they just started giving the award to the best quarterback on the best team, right? Like I'm hoping we can get the Heisman back. I think that there's enough conversation now where we just need to have educated people voting on these who are really watching these games. Like that's the key. And the Big 12, unfortunately, has gotten so big, it's gotten to be a lot more difficult. Like I used to have to know 10 teams going into Dallas. Now I need to know 16. It's not possible with all it's just not. I do my best. I really, really take it seriously. I watch as many games as possible during the year. On Sundays, I'll watch my Vikings and I'll have Purdy on, but I'm really watching Big 12 games and Big 10 games on Sundays and Mondays. And like, it's all I do during the season. The problem is, like for me, it is my life. But if you're a beat writer or if you're a TV guy, you've got to go and cover the D3 school, and you've got to go and cover the volleyball team, right? Like you can't just sit there and live it 24/7 like I do. And it's just the way that the media is made up now. And that's why we need to pivot and make these polls a little more bearable for everybody. Don't go away with the poll, make the poll better. So that's where I think the Big 12 tried to do something good here. I give them credit for shifting because that was truly embarrassing across the board last year. Most people don't care, but it's an embarrassing look when you could not whiff it more last year. But they're at fault because everything's so damn secretive now. We're at fault because we just did a really bad job. So how do we make it better? That's my idea. I doubt they listen to me, but that's what I would do if I were Brett Yormark. All right, let's shift gears. We are in the Channel Seed Studios. Happy birthday to the United States of America. If you were listening to this traveling for the 4th of July, God bless you. Go get yourself a bottle of Steeple Ridge Bourbon to celebrate America's birthday. Let's go now to my interview with Doug Cronin. He's the new head coach of the Iowa Wild. Hockey fans, listen up. CW Pod here on Iowa Everywhere. All right, well, Iowa Wild have a new coach, and there's not a lot more things in Des Moines that are more fun to do than going down to a Wild game. Absolutely love it. And Coach Greg Cronin, I've never been like a huge hockey guy because I grew up in rural Iowa. We didn't play hockey in rural Iowa, and now it has been really fun. I've been doing talk radio stuff in this market for 15 years now. The growth of the sport in this particular area of the state's been really fun to watch. And I know from talking to people how excited the organization is to get you in town. So welcome to Des Moines, Greg.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you know about the market? Because I'm sure you've heard we don't have like big pro sports, right? As far as we don't have an NFL team, we don't have the NBA. We've got our college sports, and then we love our minor league. We love the Wild. We love the Iowa Cubs, right? We really get into this. What do you know about the market? What enticed you about this opportunity?
First of all, I've actually been coming to Des Moines since the late 80s. They used to have a preseason USHL showcase in Des Moines, where the old Buccaneers hockey team, they're still here, obviously.
Yeah.
That old building.
Yeah, I love the Bucks.
Yeah, out in the suburbs, and come here every year around September. And I have good memories of it. It's obviously a Midwestern town. I'm a Boston guy, so it's a different feel, different culture. I came here recently with the Colorado Eagles in the AHL, so we would stay here for a few nights and play a couple games here. And I know Iowa football because I'm a huge college football fan, and I'm a big Iowa Hawkeye fan. I know that might rattle some cages up.
I got my Cyclone stuff on, Coach. No, it's all good. It's all good. We support that. We support them too.
Yeah, I like Iowa State. That Matt Campbell's done a heck of a job there with that football team. So, yeah, I mean it's the heartland for a reason. I think the people out here are like genuinely nice people. Like I've had more people say hello to me in 24 hours in Iowa than I have in Boston in 24 days. For God's sakes.
How did you become such a big college football fan? I'm just curious in all of your time.
Well, I played football growing up. I grew up in Boston, and we played football. My brother and I both did, and actually went to college to play hockey, baseball, and football, and ended up just playing hockey. I'm an Irish Catholic, and growing up, Notre Dame was like symbolic of the the Irish immigration movement, right? And then the Irish Catholic part of it, and then Boston College wasn't that good back then. Notre Dame was dominating college football. So if you become a fan of one team, you obviously kind of like get to know the entire league. And so I just had a real affinity for Notre Dame, and that just spiraled into a real college football passion.
That's really cool. Yeah, because I just don't think of, Coach, people from out east. I don't think big college football people out there.
No, they're not. But like, it's funny. I don't know why. I love football. If I was like 5 inches taller and I had another 40 pounds, I wouldn't be coaching hockey. I'd be coaching football.
Well, we got to get you to a game. I can't get you to Iowa City. I don't have any connections there, but I get you up to a game in Ames.
Yeah.
Go see the Cyclones play. That's cool. So you really understand the fabric of this market then. It seems like with your history of coming here, and then it is a college sports market, but we've grown to really we love the Wild. We love the Iowa Cubs have just been a staple in this town for a really long time, and it's cool because I used to work at the radio station, and we would carry your guys' games, the Wild games, and it made me a Minnesota Wild fan, which that trickles over too, because now it's like somebody says to me, that's the first favorite hockey team I've ever had because I was never exposed to it. The only hockey I remember growing up in Southwest Iowa was Mark Richter, Mark Messier. I remember that championship that they won, and then it kind of got me hooked there for a while. But there's this cool, and it's like me with the NBA too. Like if you said, hey, pick a favorite team right now, it might be Indiana because they have an Iowa State guy, but it would be the Timberwolves because of their connection to Des Moines. That's a really special thing. The connection I think between Des Moines and Minneapolis right now.
You have those bridge relationships, right? You get invested in a team, and then you look at the other teams that are related to it. I just think it's funny. My assistant coach in Anaheim last year was Tim Army, who spent 5 years coaching the Iowa Wild.
I know. Interviewed him a bunch of times. Yep.
Yeah, and Tim, he's a Providence guy, so he's an East Coaster. And a lot of us football coaches, whether you're hockey, a hockey coach, whether you're football, hockey, baseball, basketball, you itinerant people, right? You're always traveling and moving. And Tim's been in a lot of places from San Jose to Washington, D.C. to Portland to Anaheim and now Iowa. And he told me his favorite place to live was in Des Moines, Iowa. And it was kind of surprising. Cool. And I mean, it's funny because I've reached out to people and I've asked people about Iowa that have lived here. I got a good friend, John Hill, that's a local guy, and John Torchetti's a Boston guy. He coached the Iowa Wild a few years back, and they all said they loved it here. So I'm really looking forward to, integrating into the population here.
So in my brief research I've done of you thus far, you really seem to be thought of as a developmental guy, like that you are one of the top developmental guys in the sport of hockey with your background. Why is that? Why are you thought of to be that coach, and how can you bring that here to Des Moines?
So first of all, Chris, I'm 62 years old, right? So I grew up in an environment where there were no cell phones, there was no social media.
You're lucky.
Yeah, I am. And our social entertainment was playing sports. And my sports were rooted in playgrounds and tennis courts that were frozen, and you played hockey on them. I learned how to play hockey outdoors. I was always involved in athletics, whether it was football, baseball, hockey, which are obviously team sports. I did some golfing. I did some boxing. And what happened, I think the roots of my development skills came from my experience at the University of Maine. There were two coaches there that were kind of inspirational for me. The first guy's name is Sean Walsh. He would have broke every record in college hockey. Jerry York has the win total or the games coach total, but Sean would have been right behind him. He died tragically of cancer in 42. But he built Maine hockey from really like a podunk Division II hockey program into a superpower. They won a national championship in 93 at a 42-1-2 record. Then again in 99 with 4 less scholarships. I went there in 88 to be a graduate assistant, and his ability to lead, communicate, inspire was so magical. He drew me into that process, and ever since then, I've been in the coaching world. And the guy that actually was able to take my developmental skills and integrate them into an identity was a guy named Grant Stanbrook, who won, I think, 6 national championships in college hockey, at 4 at Wisconsin and 2 at Maine. And Grant was able to take these sports, like you could take baseball or take football, tackling, and, whether it's golf with your hip movement on a swing. And he was actually communicate how those skills transfer onto the ice. And I found that fascinating. He spoke a language that was universal and people could understand it. And I think, like anybody listening to this that's coaching or starting out coaching, you have to have mentors. And it's like you can't pick your mentors. Like, you don't pick your parents, right? You don't pick your neighbor where you grow up. But when you go through coaching, you have faith in people around you. And when you meet people that actually kind of mirror what your goals are and can actually broaden your view of how things should be done, it's just, you're very fortunate. And I was very lucky to be around those two personalities.
That's really cool, Coach. And then the older you get, I'm only 40, but one of the things that keeps me going every day, I love passing that on and helping younger people. I'm assuming that. Do you feel that too? Like, you develop players, but how many are you starting to have, like, your own coaching tree and that type of thing? Do you take a lot of pride in that?
Yeah, it's actually just started. Like, I've had, I wasn't a head coach. I was a head coach at Bridgeport in the AHL years ago. My former assistant coach is now an assistant GM of Seattle Kraken. I went there to go to Northeastern to college hockey, to go back to Boston. And my assistant coach became the head coach at Boston University. Then I went on to, I was an assistant coach for a long time in Toronto and then in New York. And then I went to Colorado. And in the 5 years I was there, my former assistant is now an assistant coach with the Seattle Kraken. My other assistant coach in the Anaheim Ducks. I have another assistant coach who became a president of the Colorado Eagles. Cool. So it's interesting, like, it's starting to develop, obviously.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's why I think most importantly, I really am proud of the fact that a lot of the players that I had worked with, particularly in the last 7 years with the Colorado Eagles and the Anaheim Ducks, have all grown and become real stable, productive NHL players.
Very cool. Coach, explain to me and the fans who are what is the process like now? I mean, it's the season just got over, right? The NHL season. Where so you're in town. You've been in town when we're talking to you for like 24 hours, maybe even less than that. Where do you start? Where do you roll up your sleeves? What's the timeline like for you?
Well, the next
this program.
Yeah, the next couple of weeks are huge for the Minnesota Wild and the Iowa Wild. This is where the free agency market starts. Mm-hmm. It's really critical that they find the right players to fill in the spots that need to be filled in. It starts obviously up top with the Wild, and Billy Gurn and his staff and Matt will hunker down in a bunker, and they'll try and figure out which players are going to want to go to the Wild, to two Wild teams. Just for the listeners, like the American Hockey League, a lot of your team's success is driven by the veterans that you were able to pull out of the free agent market. The local, like we had the Guance player here, who's he's a high end player. He's a call-up guy, so you want to be able to have those players that the Minnesota Wild can call up from the Iowa Wild when they run into injury problems. So we need to have really quality players here that fill in those, say top 4 or 5 forward positions and top 2 or 3 D. And then you've got the young kids that are coming through the draft that you drafted, and they're in the process of matriculating into the American League. So you've got really this interesting dynamic where you're trying to work with the young kids. And there's a lot of potential with those guys. That's why they drafted them, particularly the early round draft picks. And they're future Minnesota Wild players. So the reason why the AHL is so unique is you've got to continue to polish up the older guys so they're ready to go to the NHL. And you really got to get into the trenches and work with the young kids.
What is your what is your role with that? Do they come to you and say, do you have any input on your roster at all?
No, the only time they'll ask me is if I've actually coached a player in the past.
Gotcha.
It's like, for the, college football and college hockey coaches know this. It's a little bit of a recruitment. Mm-hmm. So recruitment is really gathering information so you identify the right people. And then once you identify that person, then it's a matter of calling people that that know the person, so that kind of reinforce what you see and what you hear.
So let's say it's October, November's here. It's Iowa Wild game day. You've got the roster that you have in front of you, and we're going out to play that night. Is your job at that point, I guess, how does the Iowa roster communicate with the Minnesota roster on a day-to-day basis during the season? Because you're a feeder program, right? You're a developmental program for Minnesota, but you're also trying to win hockey games in Des Moines. Does that get complicated at all? Like, do they give you a pitch count, I guess, for guys? Like, does anything like that happen on the inside?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, Chris, right? Like, this is a team game, okay?
Yeah.
So, like, we know our position. Our role is to make sure that the Minnesota Wild have depth, that we play the right systems, the same systems that they play. So the transition from the American League to the NHL is smooth for the player. You're doing the player a disservice if you do something different here to gain a competitive advantage systematically. Because when they go up to the Wild and if they're playing a 1-1-3 and we're playing a trap, like, the poor guy's going to be stuck in cement, right?
So college football terms, we can't be running air raid and they're running triple option, right?
Exactly. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the first part of it. That framework's got to be consistent. And the second part of it is, I tell you a funny story. Like, we had a guy in Colorado who ended up being a heck of a player. And so guys get called up, right? So sometimes not the best players getting called up. It might be a prospect that Billy Guerin wants to see in the NHL that maybe needs another couple months, but they want to see what he can do in that environment because he's a first-round pick. But one of the guys in your team might be a leading scorer, and he gets bypassed by the young kid, okay? So I've had situations where, you tell the team in the locker room, it's usually a celebration. The teammates should support that kid, whether it's the older veteran or the young guy. It's a team collaboration. You want to. It's like a rising tide benefits all boats, right?
No
Somebody
doubt.
gets called up, you should all feel good about it. So we had a kid in Colorado and he was leading the team in scoring, and they chose to call up a younger guy. And I made the announcement in front of the team, and the guy that didn't get called up goes, "Damn!" He was pissed off he didn't get called up. It's like, okay, a little bit of a character flaw there. We'll regroup there and get on top of this guy. But he ended up making it. But that's what happens. That's the team dynamic.
Yeah. Well, that's the most fascinating part of all this to me, is just trying to figure out the hierarchy and how all those pieces fit together. Well, Coach, I hope that you enjoy living here as much as Tim did. I know that we'll all welcome you with open arms, and I can't wait to get out and get to a game coming up this fall. I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better. All right?
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Coach.